Justin Muturi tells us that when things became very difficult with regards to getting his son, look at how he's implicating his boss.
Raila and his group of advisors sat down and wondered, once you kick William Ruto out, who is supposed to take over? And that is a question that most of our too emotional guys, mostly from Mount Kenya, can't tell. They can't answer that properly. But it's the truth.
I'd like to answer you. If you find a crocodile, and the crocodile tells you the hippo is unwell, there's a very high chance that you have to believe what the crocodile is saying, because the crocodile lives in water and he lives with a hippo.
Yeah. Kisumu, Homa Bay,
Siaya,
Siaya County.
Do their total, therefore. Inakujanga 1.3 million.
Oh.
Now, how much is the vote in Kiambu? 2 million. So when the four of them vote, Kiambu comes and covers them and leaves surplus.
Raila woke up one morning and said, Kibaki tosha. And that was it. I'm not saying that is what is going to happen with William Ruto, but I'm telling you that do not underestimate Luo Nyanza. I'm telling you the truth.
Fanya Mambo Kinuthia is a lawyer. I did my Bachelor of Law degrees many years ago. I'm currently pursuing my master's in the same space of law. I have done a lot of motivational talks. I am called to schools to speak to young people and to impart into their lives. But I also do a lot of corporate talks on, change management, the power of focus, and so on and so forth. So there are so many corporate bodies, yourselves, whenever you have a gig, they call me and they tell me, Fanya Mambo, we need your insights on this particular topic, and usually they get really good stuff.
Dorn Anaclet is a political strategist and analyst. I also run the Dorn Anaclet Foundation. Aside from running political communication, civic conversations, and deep analysis, that is what we do. So Dorn Anaclet is your guy when you're looking at any of those factions I've mentioned. A graduate of the University of Nairobi, and I'm also pursuing my master's there in diplomacy.
Najua kuna mapolls zingine, we'll just do a conversation. We'll try see a conversation that's run without a host, because I know we can manage each other sisi wote.
Yeah.
They do polls za kusema, is the country headed in the right direction or the country headed in the wrong direction? And with the recent abduction of the Tanzanian activist Maria Sarungi, I felt that by this gives a very bad image of our country from the perspective of Besigye just happened juicy, okay? Alafu, the boldness, grabbing someone kubarabara, then kwenda naye, and in fact, my perception is, my assumption is, they were going with her outside the country. Do we have a system that generally just does not care? There's an agenda that this pushes?
Two things. I think first and foremost, what they did painted Kenya in two very good lights. A bad one and a good one. I'll start with the bad one. The bad one is that in international law, countries are obligated to protect people who are fleeing, especially from political persecution. You cannot take someone who is being persecuted by their country and return them to that country that is persecuting them. Because then what you are doing is what they did to Besigye, and started claiming that they do not know who arrested or abducted Besigye. If you are heading the security operations of a nation, and then a figure as prolific as Besigye is arrested in your country, yes, and taken by road,
yes,
on the way to the border,
yes,
and then the police claim not to know how that happened, then the entire police department ought to resign. Because how can that happen? People come with guns, they abduct someone in the country, they drive him on hours or to the border, they hand him over to Ugandan authorities, and the Kenya police is not aware. And conveniently, these people whom the Kenya police is not aware of did not take him to Tanzania. They did not take him to Zambia. They did not even take him to Ethiopia. They knew he was Besigye and they took him to Uganda. Shame on them. They ruined the reputation of this nation. But the second one and the most important thing is what has happened to the Ugandan lady. The Tanzanian yes, lady. Beautiful, beautiful script. One, the 2010 Constitution is a living document. And it's a living document that has got a self-protection mechanism. And Kenyans have vowed to protect that document. I have read that document 172 times. It says freedom. There is nowhere that document speaks of the word abduction. That document speaks 300 times. It mentioned the word court. That document has not mentioned the word abduction anywhere. So what Kenyans did when they saw a lady being abducted, and that's why I told you we have beaten tribalism. They did not ask her, what is your name? They did not ask her, are you Luya? Are you Kisi? Are you Masai? They didn't have time for that rubbish. They saw a person whose constitutional rights were being abused. And they jumped in to protect the constitution of that person and themselves in future. I think Kenyans na waomba kwa heshima, that city hopper driver, wherever he is, let us look for him. Let us ask for his number. Let us fill it with salamus at 20 bob, 50 bob, 100 bob, 1,000 bob. Let us thank that man. Because he blocked the way without asking this girl who is being abducted, is she Masai or is she Kisi? Kenyans were united in one accord in saying that when it comes to abductions, we are Kenyans. It has happened in Kirinyaga. It has happened in Nakuru. People did not take time to ask, mwenye na abductiwa, ni Mjaluo ama ni Mkisi ama ni Mkale. They said, as long as there's a human being whose rights are being abused on this soil, we shall gang up and fight for the rights of that human being. And that's why, for me, I say that this is a very beautiful day for Kenya. And that is the spirit we shall carry into these elections. So-and-so is a good guy. We don't care if he's an Ogiek, and there are only 3,000 Ogieks in the country. We don't care. So-and-so is a Taita. Who cares if they are few? All we care about is the right person. And that's where we are heading. So do not listen to the noise of anybody who is telling you that Kenya cannot overcome tribalism. When we are united for a cause, how much time did these guys have to ask about that lady? And I like what she said. She said, I feel safer in Kenya than in Tanzania. I feel that there are human beings who wanted to protect me, not even knowing who I am. And who we are putting, because they put their lives at risk. These men had guns. These men were carrying weapons. They put their life at risk to save someone they had not even asked what their tribe was.
You know,
that's where we are.
Yeah, you know, when you mentioned, let's look for this city hopper driver. Yeah. Jana, we were having a casual conversation with someone, and they said that the security agencies, who did that, just for the act of, like, let's say, he sabotaged a mission, right? They would look for him privately, and were like, maybe Kenyans will bring this up. Who is this city hopper drivers? And I'm sure they would look for him, as in not Kenyans, like the people who are carrying out that mission. Yeah. Because there's something you mentioned, like in terms of the abductions, they're abducting the, let's call them small wigs, to nip the revolution in the
ones who are coming up.
Yes, the ones who are coming up. So, like, this comes as a, like, is it a strategy? Unaona hii, like, abductions, like picking people, like, is it a security strategy to instill fear kwa watu?
No, me, I think that we are looking at this thing from more of a blanket, I mean, as a general thing, but I think we should divide it. We bring it down into segments.
How?
There has been the abductions of Kenyans by whoever they are, because the security forces claim it's not them. Then we have also seen 2 incidences of abductions that are not Kenyans. One was for Honorable Besije and the activist from Tanzania the other day.
Maria Sarungi, yes.
Now, from where I said, I think that for the Besije and the Tanzanian, the claim, or we later on found out that these people were picked by their own security agencies for whatever reasons that we are not privy to. The only problem I have is those agencies, how did they cross our borders to come into the country and commit that whatever they were doing? Because there are proper channels. And I was also disappointed that the government of Kenya later on bizarrely claimed that they were not even aware of those abductions. I'm categorical on the abduction of Besige. The Kenyan government made it, did not admit that they were aware, although the Ugandan government were categorical that they followed the correct channels. This has also left Kenyans wondering, really, are we really in charge? Is our systems actually working?
So are you painting a picture like the way unaona sai the Kenyan security agencies have been accused of abducting people for social media activism, right?
Yeah.
And then Kenyans now, Museveni dared Kenyans on social media and wakamukuta vile anakutanga watu, right?
Yeah.
Kenyans are doing what Ugandans dream they can do, right?
Yeah.
Are you saying that under this scenario, the Ugandan authorities can come pick Kenyans and abduct them huku kwa streets on behalf of their government?
That is one thing that a bit caught me on the off guard. But I followed up on this Besigye case. I think that's why I'm a bit disappointed. Because at first I thought it was just theatrics. But when I followed up, I realized that this gentleman was actually a former military guy, and he was taken through the required channels in Uganda. He was taken to the military court and went through the formal legal processes within that country. The part I didn't understand is, why would they just not arrest him in a civil, formal, respectful manner? And why are they coming to do it on foreign soil? And if they're doing that, is there a diplomatic breach between Kenya and Uganda? That having been said, there is our own problems, of course, with the abductions. And there is, this discussion has come actually at a very good time. The CS for public service, Honorable Justin Muturi, this week, that has been the hottest topic on out of this door. That CS Muturi blew up the whole system, said how his son was abducted, blah, blah. You understand all that going on right now. But again, some of us are not very privy to discussing issues that, like me personally, I always don't like commenting on matters I have no much information about. But whenever there's anything, I always want to know what really happened, what took place, and all that. So I was also curious that around the same time, which was June last year, Justin Muturi was the Attorney General of the Republic of Kenya. And he says that his son was abducted, and he went through all those reaching up to the president to have him back. And I also thank God that his son was back unharmed. But I also was able to poke certain holes in those statements, and that also got me wanting to look at it a bit deeper. You are the Attorney General of the Republic of Kenya. Your son is abducted for some reason. Of course, I've seen the security say that they arrested him and not abducted. But whatever to the time, assume that he was abducted. I would have anticipated that Justin Muturi would have been a very honorable person in and around that time to raise that matter immediately, that my son was abducted, and then Kenyans would have at least got it around that time. Right now, if he's raising the issue, however noble and however good it may appear, from where I sit, I think it looks now for me more political than the emotional aspect of a parent. I see like he is trying to gain a certain line in terms of politics than bring up a matter that is now affecting several Kenyans. Because assuming that you are the Attorney General and your son is abducted, then there is Omolo Nyang'oro Kamau in Kirinyaga who has got no political power to reach the president to have his son released.
Are you saying that he should have used his powers as the holder of the office of Attorney General to get his son released?
No. I'm saying that he would have been honest enough around that time when his son was released to bring this that is bringing right now around that time. With that, Kenyans would have seen the clear picture of what's going on. Because right now, most of the elite knows that he is not sincere. Because if he was sincere, he would have brought this issue around that time. And also, it defeats logic that around that time, the president decided to dissolve the cabinet and reappoint new ones. This cabinet that was dissolved had Honorable Justin Muturi as the Attorney General, sitting that cabinet. Then after all that, he was reappointed and still accepted the appointment. I mean,
what if through the back channels he had tried to address this and he has dealt with, I'm approaching this with an open mind.
Yes.
He had tried to follow up on this matter as professionally as he would, and probably the wheels of justice professionally chini ya maji was not possible, that he decided to come out publicly now.
I want to challenge Kenyans when answering this your question on an issue that on something that happened in 1966. Oginga Odinga versus Kenyatta Senior. These people were sitting in the same government. They were the two heads. But then it reached a point where one felt that, no, I don't think things are going the right way. Okay? He tried addressing it with his boss and it was not working. What does an honorable man do? You quit honorably. When you quit honorably, Kenyans who are not sitting with you in cabinet get to see the clear picture. If you don't and still stay there and then in future come crying loud, it raises a different, it casts a lot of aspersions, especially on the minds of other Kenyans, that why now?
Fanya Mambo, do you agree with the question of why now?
Justin Bidan Muturi, number one, congratulations. I want to clap for you because you're a good student of President William Ruto. You have learned from your boss and you're doing what your boss did. And if it was right for him to do it then, it should be right for you to do it now. President William Ruto has taught you how to make noise at your boss and how to disturb your boss. I mean, he was Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya. Alizunguka mpaka akaitwa tangatanga. He was told, stop campaigning early. He campaigned them more. He spoke about, remember they used to call President Uhuru Kenyatta Mulevi. They called him Mutu Abangi. They said, ni watu wa rege. They said, BBI ni mbaya. They said, President Uhuru, don't kill my children. If there is anything a president would have been told by his deputy, Uhuru was told by William Ruto. And we saw it openly. Mm-hmm. If there is a time when President Uhuru Kenyatta told his deputy, please stop politicking, let us work fast, the time for politics will come, and he didn't listen. Now, Justin Muturi was taking notes. Now he's doing what his boss was doing, and his boss is surprised. Because he's telling the boss, but you used to do this, and it was okay. Rigathi Gachagua had tried doing to William Ruto what William Ruto was doing to Uhuru Kenyatta when he was deputy. He was fired so quickly. William Ruto could not stomach anybody disrespecting him. Yet he disrespected his boss. I think let us teach people lessons that we ourselves can live by. Justin Bidan Muturi ka huko, don't resign. Make noise from inside there, disturb them. Be in the sitting room if you may. Make it difficult for those cabinet sittings. Tell them from inside that it is rotten, because we are also telling them from outside. There needs to be someone who is man enough to tell this administration from inside. I may want to give him the benefit of doubt and say, perhaps then he failed to speak. There is a chief government slappist who would probably have slapped him somewhere. So maybe the fear then was still there. But there comes a time when we also even face the chief government slappist and say, wait a minute.
How do we know if these things are true? Because
lisemwalo lipo kama halipo laja.
I'm struggling with that person.
I'll tell you this.
Things you hear in this country and you're like...
Can I tell you
majority
this?
of them...
Can I tell you this?
Could also be propaganda.
The other day, and I want this to be also said to be propaganda, we saw the deputy president akipangwa, mpaka anaambiwa mahali atapitia na anasukumwa. And you can't take that clip away. I have always said, if you find a crocodile, and the crocodile tells you the hippo is unwell, there's a very high chance that you have to believe what the crocodile is saying, because the crocodile lives in water and he lives with the hippo. And if you haven't seen the hippo for 3 days, and the crocodile is telling you the hippo has chronic diarrhea, for the time being you have to believe the crocodile until the hippo comes and proves otherwise. The fact that the hippo hasn't come out to say, no, I'm not having chronic diarrhea, then it means the hippo is unwell.
And then, but my mind went differently. Because when you say the crocodile tells you the hippo is unwell, let's go see the hippo so that he can hit you.
You try going there. No. Try going there. No. So now, that having been said and done, I think Justin Muturi is within his rights to criticize this administration from the inside, because his boss taught him as much when he was DP.
His boss taught him as much.
When he was DP, by example, by the way, not by Nini, he did it. He did it, and Justin Muturi must have been taking lessons.
Then what happens to the concept, The concepts, like resign honorably. I'll support that point, because let's say, for example, we look up to countries like Japan, where you hear someone on authority resigns because the train is late, like you did not deliver as per the expectations of your office.
Let me tell you, God is very fair. You've heard of that thing that has a name that begins with a B. Karma.
Yes.
Yeah, you have to pay. Those things you do, God makes sure that you pay. And right now, Justin Muturi is in there to just repay good for good and bad for bad.
Mm-hmm.
And what he's doing right now, even if he doesn't do it, someone will rise it from within and they will do it. Let Justin Muturi stay there. And President William Ruto should be happy that he has people who are close to him telling him the truth, as opposed to having people who are telling him, President, miaka yako ni 10 tutakuongezea. Watamuongezea, watatoa wapi? They will manufacture years. There will be an election in 2027. And the people who are telling you that the constituency that voted for him did not have more than 50,000 voters, where will this person manufacture votes from? Just because you've gotten a PhD that is, and by the way, it's a special PhD because you get it before you even go to high school, you even go to university, you don't even do masters, you just have a PhD. Now you think your PhD can advise the president. I've always told the head of state, with things as they are today, you know, it's good to be truthful. If he went into an election alone, he would become number 2. So it's best to accept that things are not easy now. Na nyinyi muache kudanganya head of state. Tell him the truth. Things are not good. Tell him that Raila Amolo Odinga will leave him. I promise you. I said there'll be a cabinet reshuffle. There was one. Mm-hmm. I am telling you, if Raila Amolo Odinga is alive in 2027, he'll be on the ballot. His votes are solid. He may have lost a few, like me, who then did not believe in Ruto, but he joined Ruto. But of course, if I had the choice between the two, I'd vote for Raila. But in 2027, whether he'll be in AUC or wherever he will be, he will come back and he will vie. And all he needs is to keep his votes, because Ruto has lost Mount Kenya.
Where does this audacity come from? Number one, in terms of kuwa sure about an election, let me be the devil's advocate hapa kidogo. I am starting to feel like kitu ya the constitution of the IEBC commission is by design, right? Because I'm told that if we don't reconstitute by July, there is no possible way we are going to have an election in 2027. So could you say that the people who plan politics probably know that wakisema 7 years wanajua ni 7, when they say 10 they mean 10?
May I have a bit of a different opinion about the IBC? And recently we had this issue that political parties were requested to submit names, and there were political parties that were still angling in coalitions they either don't want to be in or are struggling to walk out. So that is from the correct lawful reason as to why it has not been constituted. However, there could be, which I really think is what's happening, political aspect of this story too. The president knows clearly that without IBC having been constituted within a reasonable time, there won't be an election. And vile tu rais usemanga, Kenyan si wajinga bwana. They're seeing. So right now, Kenya are already reading through the lines. They know that the delay to appoint IBC could also be one to ensure that 2027 either mesongeshwa or does not happen entirely. My take on please give me a couple of minutes to go back to this other issue we are trying to run away from, because I still have parts that I want us to talk about. I'm still insisting because there is something I've read about Kenyans where we are activists who are praying for things to happen well, while our actions at the moment are to ensure that they are not happening well. We want to hold the government accountable. We want them to do things right. But we are praying that the wrong people in those offices remain there to punish someone else. That's why I started by telling you that if, for example, Justin Muturi feels that the things that are happening, I mean, he's not currently in tandem with the government that he works for, he should leave. So that, because you are not going to lie to me that he's in the office serving the public honorably for a government that he's not in tandem with. What is happening is he's just sitting and earning. He's not serving.
Why didn't President Ruto resign as a deputy for 5 years to fight from outside?
I've told you in this show that these governments, not just this one, these governments are always divided into two. There are people who are working at a particular time. There are people who are working, and then there are people who are political. At the time, President Uhuru Kenyatta had just joined William Ruto and they were working. President Kenyatta had just joined and with Raila Odinga and they were working. And I can tell you,
when
there are several things that were happening at that time, and I think that also preformed the reason that that Uhuru Kenyatta at that time did not see any reason to entangle himself with the William Ruto thing. He thought, no, he's politicking, and from where Uhuru was sitting, there was nothing Uhuru was going to run for past 2022. So it was like, okay, let me leave my legacy. And you will see that with William Ruto, in case 2027 gets when he's still in office. You may just find out that around that time he stopped all politics and do some work because now his legacy along the line. And that also preformed this problem with the former DP, Rigiji. Both of them are still in the contest, okay? The president is still trying to run for an election in 2027 and sees Gachagua as an opponent but within the same government. So you should kick him out to go and become an opponent out there so that he's not sabotaging what you are doing. And that's what I think with the Mheshimiwa Muturi. He is an honorable man. And people who are suffering, it's not William Ruto. You know that? He is holding a very key docket where if he's just waking up in the morning and going there to sit down and sabotage the government, President William Ruto or Mheshimiwa Kindiki is not suffering. It's Kenyans. If you need a service today, you don't want to walk to State House to get it. You need to go to the ministry. And if the minister in charge there is already telling you that he is having problems with the current government, but don't want to walk out because he has to punish, like my friend here is saying, that he has to now to remain there to punish the president or probably show him that is what the president had done to Uhuru. Uhuru is doing good wherever he is. Trust me, Uhuru doesn't care completely what is happening right now. But for William Ruto and the Kenyans today,
please,
I think that
my friend, you have a problem.
He needs to leave.
You need to listen to yourself. You are telling us that the victim, the man whose child has been abducted, should leave government. And the perpetrator of abductions should remain in government to continue perpetrating abductions. That's what you are telling us essentially, because you are saying, listen to me.
If you're asking me to listen, I think you should do that listening.
You are saying, Justin Muturi...
You misconstrued my statement, that I want to go back there.
So, how did you get his point?
He's saying
yes,
that Justin Muturi, because he's disturbing government, should do the honorable thing.
Because the docket he holds, Kenyans are suffering.
That is a problem. We all know ministers do very little work. Most of the work is done by permanent secretaries. Let us be truthful to one another. When I come and say that my son was abducted by this regime, and then he tells me the honorable thing for me to do is to resign, I think the question we should be asking is who was in charge of making sure that my son is not abducted? And that is the person who should leave government. That has to be clear. The person who was in charge of making sure that 80 young people today, who we don't know where they are, have not lost their lives or been abducted or are missing, is the person who should be in jail today. Not just resigning, but in jail, because 80 Kenyans are missing. But what we are doing is we are coming to the person who is getting bold enough from within government to say that we are doing things wrong. And that's the man we are saying is a thorn in the flesh of government. It is a government that is a thorn in the flesh of 50 million Kenyans. This is a government that doesn't want to explain to us where our 80 young people are. They don't want to. It's a conversation they don't want to have. The conversation they want to have is about Justin Muturi not being able to respect the doctrine of collective responsibility. How can we be collectively responsible for rubbish? Because abduction is rubbish. I don't want to be collectively responsible for things that are wrong. And that's when you stand out and say, wait a minute, let us do the right thing. The person who was in charge of making sure that no single Kenyan loses their life or disappears from their family without an explanation, that is one person who should be in jail by now. They are not in jail. The person we want to punish is the Attorney General former who comes and says, my son was abducted.
I'd like to introduce another angle to this Justin Muturi story.
Yes.
Do you get the point Fanya Mambo is saying? Because I also think, in terms of responsibility, right, we shouldn't be in a place where the government can actually even admit to not knowing what is happening. Right?
I agree with that.
You understand?
100, yeah.
And also,
I started by saying I really have a problem with a government that is claiming that even foreigners can come to the country, abduct a foreigner, take them there without knowing what's going on.
Sawa. Then there's another angle that's introduced to the Justin Muturi story. There's a word I see on Twitter, sana, psyops. Right? So now I see someone introducing an angle, this Justin Muturi story could just be a smoke screen, and this is just a theory. No disrespect to what the family is going through. Could be a theory. Like now, I believe like the story is there's a team that's responsible for national conversation. What can distract Kenyans? Now, because the Rigiji fire had picked up a lot of steam, give Kenyans something else to talk about. Is that a possibility?
I think I want to respond to that first before Fanya Mambo picks it up. Since we started this conversation, you realize that I'm trying to look at it just slightly away from how every other normal Kenyan would see it. I want you first to understand that I really have a problem with how things are done. Okay? I just don't want to try to to advocate for reforms without civility and decorum. You understand? And I'm also saying that we have a generation after us. There are right now 3 generations behind Justin Muturi's generation. And the second generation after that is my generation and yours and his. And I'm happy that he really actually wants to become a leader. You have my vote to begin with. Because I want you to get to that office, and the first thing you are going to do in that office is to serve without playing politics first. Serve, such that in case politics is trying to outweigh what you are doing there, you should walk and go and serve somewhere else. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying, if I'm the Attorney General today and my son is abducted, it's going to take you the whole day to convince me that being an Attorney General is anything bigger or better than my son. You understand? If my son is abducted today and there is no proper explanation as to why he was abducted, even if he's back, I want to know why. Okay? I want to know why. And if I can't know why, what am I going to do? I'm going to leave honorably. That's the first thing you are going to do. Because if you talk to any lawyer around, they'll tell you, you cannot seek equity when your hands are not clean.
The government has already issued the first statement I've seen in response to Justin Muturi is that he's a politician whose career is waning, so he's looking for relevance. So that is a counter while he's still a cabinet secretary.
Yes,
right?
and I had looked at it from that end too. I've looked at it from the fact that there is a lot of politics happening in Embu, because, like I told you, when this issue came up, I have also friends. So I started making calls that, hii story, nyi mnaisikia aje. So they also give you their part. But when I saw the affidavit that was written by Honorable Justin Muturi, it affirmed some parts of the rumors that I had got from friends. So I started asking myself key questions. There are 22 cabinet secretaries in this country today. But we entrust with public service. We entrust them with a lot of money. Okay? Assuming that all of them, or the majority of them, have that reservation for work, but they lack the courage to walk away, or they lack the honor. Actually, the correct term is honor, not courage. They lack the honor to walk away. It then means that as much as they are sabotaging the president's work, the president himself is not feeling the heat. Who is feeling the heat? Kenyans. That's why I'm saying, if today I'm having a problem with you, we're on this show together, and you're the boss, or he's the boss, and then I'm having a problem with you, what do I do? The moment I keep staying in this show means that I'm not giving my all, okay? But I could easily go to the next room and probably give my all there. Not necessarily here, you understand me? So all I'm saying is, the fact that there is no freedom of speech, I have a problem with that. I really want us to be able to talk freely without fearing to be abducted. And I also want to hold the police and the government accountable for the abductions. All I'm saying is, I want people who have the honor. When something happens and then you're coming back almost 7 months down the line and you are still, you've been in that house all that time. And if Justin Muturi would have been out and nobody understood why, and then he has come out right now to say that my son, was abducted, I would really feel for him.
Don, how many times have you
right
been
now,
married? How many times have you been married? Because you come across as someone has a slight disagreement with your wife, you are out.
No. I've been married a couple of times, but we'll talk. That's for another day.
That explains
that's for another day. All I'm saying is that we have kids growing up. One of the things you're going to teach your kids is that they have to be men of honor. You just mentioned Japan. These economies are doing good because their leaders are people of honor. If you're mentioned in corruption, you don't go around fighting fast. You leave because someone else need to take over that work as you still fight, okay? So that the public don't have a vacuum. When you're still fighting, you can't serve and fighting at the same time.
Kwani, how much work does it take to hold a press conference? He hold a press conference and goes back to work.
And another question is, if you are today mentioned in a multi-billion scandal within, say, a ministry, all you need to do is hold a press conference and say, no, it's not. No, you need to come clean. And how do you come clean? Coming clean within the justice system takes time, even say 3-4 months. When you're still busy fighting with your lawyers or whoever, or even the public to come clean, you should let somebody else take you over so that the public don't suffer.
The justice system is a conversation for another day.
Yes.
Ulikuwa unasema kitu.
It's very simple. One thing that Kenyans have not appreciated and that I want them to appreciate is this. Can you imagine in the village you come from, a young person is abducted. The MCA who has the mandate of the people does not say a word. The MP who has the mandate of the people does not say a word. The senator, the governor, all the way up. Because they were elected on a UDA ticket, or because they're probably in an ODM and ODM is now in midnight dreams with UDA in the same bed. So there comes people who have not been elected like Fanya Mambo, and we say this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, and from whichever angle you look at it, it is wrong. Now, the least we have expected from those people who have been elected by the people, like Cecily Mbarire, who is from Embu, a voter in your constituency has been abducted, and you don't want to come and condemn the abduction because you're from UDA. I dare submit to young Kenyans that the next war we need to start with our members of parliament is not throwing stones. Wale wameshindwa kurudi ground, wakaribisheni ground. Wakikuja, the only attack is mukue na simu. Tell them to give a statement on abductions. Especially those who are on a UDA ticket and those who are on ODM tickets now, because ODM and UDA are singing the same song. Tell them, wewe Muhesh, peana statement yako on abductions. Are you pro or against? And then we take all those statements we send to State House. So that now the president is seeing 200 of his lieutenants saying we condemn abductions. We have to force our leaders to give a statement on abductions.
And
Justin Muturi has come out so far, as I would say the highest current government ranking official, to condemn abductions.
Could it be
when
time?
you are a leader, you have a moral authority to say wrong when wrong is wrong. And what we want to now is the new front of our war. Don't touch an MP. Don't even beat them. Make them give you a statement on abductions. And then make it public. Kama kwetu, KJ has been having challenges in Integrity South because of the way things have gone. We are just waiting for him. He comes, we tell us about abductions. Although he already said it on TV yesterday. He said that people had gone to their girlfriend's house and boyfriend's house. So that's his stand. Now we know. Oh yes, it was on one of the leading media houses, and they shared on their page, and it's trending all over. And you remember metadata, and you remember... So I think he has a way of fighting himself. But he's my friend, and I will correct him when I meet him. But that's the position. So Justin Muturi has done what many government officials have not done. I like the fact that Baba condemned abductions in Kisumu in front of Ruto. And I wish now every other ODM leader can condemn. Because when you increase the number of voices that are saying this is wrong, And the president did something that is very interesting, according to Justin Muturi. Justin Muturi tells us that when things became very difficult with regards to getting his son, look at how he's implicating his boss. He called his boss, and his boss secured the release of his son. That's what Justin Muturi told us. Is he telling us that the boss knew who to call so that his son can be released, or what is he telling us? He needs to come clear on that. Because what he's telling us is that for any Kenyan whose child is abducted, if you follow Justin Muturi's full steps, you're supposed to call the head of state if you can. And if he picks your call, then he releases your abductee. What is he telling us about the head of state? So sometimes you let these statements come out because they carry with them very interesting information. I rest my case.
Is there any relationship between what you said, that someone gets abducted in Embu, and then no politicians across on the chain speaks about abductions, and then Justin Muturi, who coincidentally comes from the larger Embu community, I believe, is a victim of that, and then he comes out to talk about it. Is there politics there?
Yes, there is. There is. I mean, there has to be politics. And if you'd be stupid not to listen to what people are saying. And when he was in Embu, people told him, now you need to declare your position on abductions. And he's come out and he's done it. He's late, but he's done it. So, and the more we condemn it, the better. So that the abductors will know that leaders are not happy with their work. And the constituents are telling their leaders, we are not happy with this work.
Yes, Dorn.
Just a small part. He went to Embu and he was challenged to speak on abduction, and that's the reason he brought his son.
It's one of the reasons why he spoke about it.
But again, why? I mean, when your son is abducted, or when your son, in fact, leave alone even abduction, even a civil arrest, if you are arrested in a proper manner, like how the law requires, there's always emotions that comes attached to that. I mean, why do you want the crowd to challenge you?
I can answer you in 30 seconds. To
come out first so that you can. I mean, bro, if today you are abducted, I'm going to speak about it. Right now. No. 5 minutes after that. And I'm going to ensure that every Kenyan knows that you are abducted. Not that you're my son, but now, if you're my son, I'm going to make every Kenyan know about it.
Allow me to speak as a lawyer. I'll tell you this. There are very many cases of women who got sexually abused when they were young.
Okay.
And they only come to speak about it much later when they are big, with a lot of tears. If you've never been raped, you would never know what trauma and how deep it takes you into another world of even self-hate, that you cannot even begin to tell the public that ugly, dirty guy got into my body. And so many women have stayed with that stigma for many years before they can mention. I have known people who were carjacked, thrown in the boot, taken around in circles, robbed of everything. They even peed on themselves, and they've never been able to speak about that incident until 2-3 years later, when they come and disclose what has happened to them in life. Everybody reacts to trauma differently. As we sit here, none of us has had the experience of having their child missing for a day or 2 or 3 and knowing that they've been abducted. So you don't know what that does to you. You can be a minister, you can be a governor, you can be a human. There are people who immediately trauma happens to them, they speak about it. And there are people who experience the Rwandan genocide. They even saw the people who killed their fathers and said nothing until 5-6 years later. So you have to appreciate that trauma affects people differently. And by the way, as I finish, you can go to a burial today where people have lost their father, and all the children are crying, and there's one who is not crying. They don't even look affected by it. And when you come back to Nairobi a month later, you hear this person has gone into counseling. They've gone into depression. They are now mourning their father 2 or 3 months later. The gear has kicked in. It has hit them that their dad is not alive. I have seen all these sorts of things because I run a mediation firm. And I can tell you, when people react differently to trauma, don't come and tell them that kama ulirepiwa jana ungesema leo. It's not that automatic. kama your father died, ulikataa kulia kwa mazishi, unakuja kulia kwa ofisi. That's not the way it works.
Now, Fanya Mambo, just back around. Rape, I mean, sexual assault or offenses that comes around that leaves a lot of trauma and mental issues, as you've said. However, it's a whole different story in case that this happens to him.
Trauma is the key word.
When you don't see your son for 48 hours.
That's why I'm taking you there. Let's just go slow. If it happens to me, or say I'm kajak today, alone, put in a boot, taken through the town, I'm traumatized. Okay? But it would be a different story if within the same month, you undergo the same, he undergoes the same, he undergoes the same. I mean, 20 other people.
You're coming back to the point he made that whatever incident that happens to someone, the reaction from anyone
but
is different.
I'm saying that when there is a national crisis, I want you to understand that these abductions right now is a national crisis. We all know that. And when it happens to you as a high-ranking government official and you keep quiet with it, I mean, there's something
in
else.
The shoes, ndio nasema, you are still going back to like you how he reacted. Right?
No, I'm going back to
there was
why he has come out right now. Because you asked that could there be political motivations or could there be political angles? And that is what I want to point out. That as much as you may be sincere right now, you're leaving a lot of space for people to question your sincerity.
But does it make me? Yes, I've left space for people to doubt my sincerity.
Yeah.
But does that make me insincere?
Yes.
No,
whenever people are doubting your sincerity,
does that make people are doubting I'm sincere, but people are doubting my sincerity?
Yes.
Does that make me insincere?
I think let's answer him.
Yes.
When did abductions begin?
Before
you
70s.
answer, before you answer, when
70s.
did Baba speak about them?
Baba spoke about them just
Why
recently.
did he take too long? Are we supposed to doubt his consciousness? He's been with Ruto.
I want to answer you,
my friend.
Remember that Baba and his group started fighting abductions before the dawn of the second liberation.
I am just
Are
telling
we together
you
during Moi's time?
No, let's
Then
keep it
there
in
is
the
the
Gen Z
current crisis
context.
that have happened.
Let us keep it in the Gen Z context.
And has heightened post the Gen Z protests.
Okay?
No, let's talk about.
And one
let's
Raila
talk about
Odinga
post-
is one guy that has both information calculative. He just doesn't go around mentioning. For Raila to take several months to speak about a single,
just a question.
Such an important matter means two things. One, he was finding correct information to talk about.
But Justin Muturi was not finding the correct. Okay.
Justin Muturi's son, Raila Odinga's son, was not abducted, bro. I'm saying Justin's son was abducted.
We are talking about context,
yes.
Right? You're talking about the political angle, the political position, right?
Yes.
He's a politician. Sawa. Like his son was abducted in June. He took time before he came out and did a statement, right?
Yes.
Now, Baba has been in dalliance with the government, right?
Yes.
Since June?
Since June, let's say, right? And then the abductions have continued happening, and
yes.
then he spoke about it recently.
Yes.
So he did not speak about them then.
Yes.
Do you want to say that his feelings about abductions when he spoke were not his feelings about abduction when they started happening?
Before he spoke? Or
let me simplify.
Now, my answer to that is this. He has asked me a question that I really want to answer. What I'm saying is, there are two situations here. There is Raila Odinga as the national leader who is coming out to address what has become a national crisis. Okay. Are we together?
Yes.
He has his own angle to look at it. And then there is Mheshimiwa Justin Muturi, who was a victim. These are two different people. All I'm saying is, when you're a victim of anything that is becoming a crisis at the moment, he just gave a good example of maybe being carjacked, you are sexually assaulted. This could have been isolated incidences. But the abductions are not isolated incidences. These are things that have been happening. And like I said, for Raila to have spoken about them this late means two things. Raila, over the years, as you all know, he just doesn't wake up and speak about anything. He takes time, wants to know the correct information, wants to know the truth. And when he comes out, he is rarely wrong. So for him to have come out right now means that he has had full information about the abductions. He has probably met and spoken to several of those. And you may never know. It could be part of the reason that Mheshimiwa Justin Muturi came out. Because now, the thing is this, and this is what I want to say here. If I get information, and I also want, if you just hear that Dorn is abducted out here right now, I don't want you to wait for 7 months to come out clear and say that, you see, and especially if
So
we
are
think
you
that you
saying-
want to run for an election.
Are you saying that Raila heard about abduction, but he took time first to find information before he condemns it as a national crisis, but Justin Muturi, who probably needed time to make sense of the whole situation, probably the position he holds, I know you'll jump at his son, Nini, to make sense of the whole situation,
Yeah.
is different. Wote ni wababa.
Yes.
Kila mtu ni baba hapo.
Yeah,
See,
yeah.
it's sad that men in our generation would allow themselves to think this way. I have always said that we will follow these leaders where they lead. But where they go wrong, we will not go wrong with them. I was in Azimio. And when I felt Azimio was going the wrong direction, I refused to justify they are going in the wrong direction.
Okay.
We have to be people who have got something that guides us, other than a foolish following, so that if Ruto takes me to a trench, I go to a trench. And if Baba takes me to a trench, I go to a trench. I do not need rocket science. I don't need 6 months, 8 months for me to say that Rex Masai was killed and people went for his burial and it was wrong. I don't need to wait for 8 months to know that there are 80 families who've registered their lost ones and we don't know where they are, for me to come out and tell the president that what you are doing is wrong because the president is supporting me for an AUC seat.
But that's
Why-
what you're saying is correct with Justin
My friend-
Muturi. You are saying
my
that
friend,
he
listen.
took his time to understand. But again,
Listen.
you are saying it should happen immediately.
This is what I am telling you. We have bodies that were found dumped in a quarry, human beings. Then later that quarry was closed and burnt and so many sorts of things, and nobody wants to talk about that issue again. These leaders have failed in pronouncing and condemning what is wrong. And I'm not saying Justin Muturi has done a good thing to come late, but I'm saying it's better late than never. For both of them, at least they've condemned it. And those who haven't condemned it should condemn it. And we who are following these leaders should not follow them when they go in the wrong direction. We need to say, no, this is where I say I'm not following you. So let us not be sycophantic in any way. Let us not follow these people blindly. It doesn't mean that when I see someone is going wrong, I have to defend them. Me, if you're going wrong, go wrong on your own. Because we have a path to chart for ourselves. And so abductions are wrong. Let us get an explanation about where the 80 young people who are missing are. If they are dead, give us bodies we bury. Families want closure. They went for Christmas without their loved ones. They are in New Year without their loved ones. We want closure. Let us know who are these who are holding those people, if they are alive or if they are dead. Let's just bring closure. Because that will lead us to the next topic you wanted to talk about. Why are young people doing the things they are doing?
Yes, but before we get there, Nani, Don.
Yes.
Raila has been known, and I will disagree with you, Fanya Mambo, that Raila will maintain, the former Prime Minister will maintain his votes, right? Because I stand to think, like, the
He's
brand
already
he
lost
created-
mine anyway.
the brand he created of being a man of the people, it's a double-edged sword to the extent that, like, to some extent, I feel for him that when he stands for the people, he's accused of opposing government. When he sides with the government, he's accused of siding with the oppressor. Up to that point, I don't know how he manages. But then again, as someone who has been known to be a man of the people, someone who has the power to shift government position, right?
Yeah.
He decided to side with government and over something we perceive as a token, like, for lack of a better word, like the AUCC. There's nothing else you can attribute to the former Prime Minister being silent over the many things and the many grievances Kenyans have had against the government that he was running against in the last election, right?
Yeah.
Do you think, and you'll also agree, that he's not the person he was before in terms of speaking out for the rights, the grievances of people, right? Do you think that seat is worth it?
First, I want to disagree on a part that he has been silent on many of these grievances. I don't know why we are forgetting that less than 2 years ago,
yes,
Raila came up with resist, and one of the reasons that ODM at that time was resisting President William Ruto's government was the high cost of living. There was the Unga issue. Remember, that is 2023, less than 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. And ODM did what was best for them at the time and what was best for the Kenyans. Trust me, if you leave alone the tribal politics and all that, you know that ODM did a lot fighting the current government until probably they realized that they were not going to get it through, because that is what the politics of the day tries to look like. But I also want to acknowledge a couple of things. Number one was that at the apex of the Gen Z movement, we all know that it looked closer to, if not 100%, that the government was going to collapse. The government of the day was going to collapse in and around the Gen Z's protests. I think, why are we not also seeing it from the other end, that maybe Raila just became the bigger guy, thought that now, do we all bring down the house and get rained on, or maybe we just all try to find a way in which we can enter this house and clean it up?
Enter this house and clean it up.
And
I'll
clean
just
it up.
ask you something simple. Yes. Assuming the idea was to quell the tension that was in the country, to quell
there could have been no country later, by the way.
There could be no country. But now that there was a country immediately after, right? Yeah. What stops him from speaking against the same government when they go wrong?
He has done that. He just condemned the abduction. Okay. Tell me one other thing that's going on that he has not spoken about.
That's the only thing that you think Kenyans are aggrieved about right now?
That is one major thing that is happening in this country today that is annoying every Kenyan, including, but not limited, to Raila Odinga. Every Kenyan is speaking about it. And just because Raila is still the national leader, remember, he's no longer a political leader of the country. Holds no position in terms of politics, no political party.
Okay, so beyond abductions,
we'll refer to Raila Odinga at the moment as a third party.
Beyond abductions, you will submit that everything else is moving fine.
No. Everything else is not moving fine for this country. I've mentioned that several times, and I have my own reservations and problems with the government. The only thing I'm appreciating from the only positive I'm seeing from Raila Odinga's move into trying to work with the government is that whenever there's no peace, there's nothing happening. In fact, whenever there's no peace, it's way worse than what's happening at the moment. Imagine this country that right now the cost of living is too high. There are abductions. There are all sorts of problems. Assuming that would have been coupled with another peaceless situation that is brought by Raila Odinga's faction versus President William Ruto's faction, you don't think that it would be way worse?
Are you saying in very strategic words or very carefully placed words that Raila maybe Kenyans are not seeing that Raila saved this country?
That is actually several elites. If you sit with them somewhere else, leave alone the emotional bunch, they'll tell you that move saved Kenya. He
saved Kenya, or he saved the Kenya Kwanza government?
Both. How? He saved Kenya by saving the Kenya Kwanza government. My friend, we have seen several of these countries, and most of these countries that have fallen, how does the fall start? It is the civil unrest that starts in the country. There's no third-party aggression that is coming to attack Kenya today. We are not in war with Uganda. If there is going to be a problem, if the country is going to collapse, it's going to collapse from right in here. And I think that Raila and his group of advisors sat down and wondered, once we kick William Ruto out, who is supposed to take over? And that is a question that most of our too emotional guys, mostly from Mount Kenya, can't tell you. They can't answer that properly. But it's the truth.
I'd like to answer you
in
very simple language.
Let's have that candid conversation. I want us to have that conversation. These guys are just emotional.
Fanya
Ask them a
Mambo.
key question. If we had kicked William Ruto out of power, what was their strategy to ensure that there was a government that is coming in that was going to have to solve the
I'll
problem
answer
that
you.
we have?
You see,
Yeah.
we are not the first country to go to the streets and to demand for a resignation of a head of state. Because what these people are thinking is that Gen Z is a bunch of very foolish people who've not been to school, whose only intention is to go to State House and start swimming there like the boys did in Sudan or Bangladesh. What Gen Zs were saying is they were mounting pressure for Ruto to resign. And because we have a constitution in this country, the question becomes, in the event of a vacancy in the office of the president by way of resignation, the 2010 constitution takes effect. No young person was coming to suspend the constitution. The problem with some of these people who are very intelligent, they think that we are coming to suspend the 2010 constitution. Nobody said they were suspending the 2010 constitution. The Gen Z's movement was saying we are demanding for the resignation of William Samoei Ruto. We are not in Somalia, where if you remove a president, that time in 1991, that there was at some point where there was no constitution, where then nothing ceases to hold water. I mean, if President William Ruto was to leave office today, whether by resignation or because God, his creator, has decided that heaven is a better place for him than here, do you think the country will come to an end? The 2010 constitution is complete and it's a living document. So let us not try to appear to make Raila look like he was a savior. He was not saving us from anything. He saved us from the 2010 constitution. The 2010 constitution has clear mechanisms of what would happen in the case of Rigiji would have taken over. He's not the best president. And then he would have appointed a deputy. Then we would have mounted pressure on him and told him, you are also not good, you need to resign. And that way, so for us as a country, we are not a banana republic. This is not this funny country where troops have been sent for nothing, Haiti. This is a country with a constitution. So when the president would have resigned, we were not looking for anarchy as young people. And we were not looking to go to State House and start dancing with water there. If you look at the Gen Zs, they were very clever, very calculated, and very measured. In fact, the Gen Zs love this country so much, none of them threw a stone at the police. But this government mobilized goons against itself. We saw people with batons and sticks coming to beat up peaceful Gen Zs. And our police, in their wisdom or lack thereof, were beating up the young people who had a flag and water and leaving the guys who were carrying batons. Yet the 2010 constitution says that a person has a right to demonstrate peaceful and unarmed. The armed goons received police protection. The people like Hanifa who carried a flag found themselves in a police cell. Now that is the administration that Raila Amolo Odinga came to protect, to stay in power. That these young people, what would have stopped them for carrying stones if they were anarchists? I mean, stones are free. They were not going to buy them. And if they wanted to carry sticks, they would have carried. They would know where to get them, where the goons got them from. If these are people who hated this republic, they knew how to buy petrol. They could afford. They had iPhones, for crying out loud. They could have afforded petrol to burn parliament if they wanted. Gen Zs are not anarchists. And let those people who were calling them criminals stop calling them criminals. Because if Gen Zs were anarchists, they would have carried stones. They know where stones, if they are sold, they would have bought them. But they are not for sale. They know where to carry batons from. So what we are saying is stop branding Gen Zs as a bunch of criminals who wanted to create anarchy in this country. They were always singing, we are peaceful. And even when they were being shot from the roofs of parliament, I can't remember a photo of one carrying a stone.
Fanya Mambo, you paint a very beautiful picture of the constitution, and I pray to God we get to a place where that works, because this country, if only our institutions work, right, nobody will care who's president. Nobody will care. Just the institutions working. We are going to talk about that. But then again, we also have to, there's something, Rosie, we tell ourselves, like in circles that we meet, ama tukiingia online, that Wakenya si wajinga, ama wajinga waliisha. I have to say Kenyans are very smart, but we also have a population that lets us down. I'll explain. Miguna writes in his book, Treason, that on average, any country that goes in the direction of anarchy, it takes an average of 50 years, 50, to get back with systems, right? I submit that our politics has been so bad na tumekuwa na tabia mbaya for so long, in fact, as old as this country has been, because in Linjiro, if you read Linjiro's book, The President's Pressman, this really sticks in my mind always. He paints a picture of Mzee Jomo Kenyatta's State House. He says that Mzee Jomo Kenyatta used to wake up at 11, wanapiga story kidogo na Koinange. I'm not sure kama he's the senior chief ama which Koinange. I don't remember. And then if he liked Nakuru Lodge and Mombasa. So wanapiga story kidogo kama 1 hour, and then he goes to the lake, entertainment kidogo, and then they will go back to State House in the evening, and then there will be entertainment again till 2 a.m. Then he goes to sleep and then wakes up kesho saa tano. You see the cycle vile his day was, and that's in Linjiro's book. You can check The President's Pressman. He details everything. And then in my head I was like, when did he used to work? Okay? Because in that office, I understand you need to work. You understand? So I was like, we had that over time. And over a period of time, we've accepted. I've seen an article saying that police, actually, there's a report that came out of police saying that it's Kenyans who beg them to take bribes. You understand? We have a constitution which, by the way, if you read Nauelezewe, if you understand what you deserve as a Kenyan, right? It's first world. Like just the system's working. But we have to accept that we ourselves make it not possible. You understand? So let's say in a scenario where in the June protests, the president was kicked out of office. Do you know, I've had people, like when Omtata came out, I wish him all the best in the race. And on principle, we've had a show with him, conversations, and I may be a poor judge of character, but I believe he's someone who means well for the country, right? But then you see the opinion, like you would assume, we want someone with integrity. Kama mi usema, like this I can say publicly. Someone like former Chief Justice Maraga, based on integrity, if you're looking for someone with integrity, that's someone I will stand behind, right? But people say, no, he's not presidential. Ajui kuongea na watu. You understand? The president recently came out. Akasema, 2027, ni yeye, he does not see competition. Ni yeye na track record yake. And remotely when you speak to Kenyans, you will see, Ruto hana competition. Kalonzo no. Anani, so, which means we may be here talking of like 2027, Ruto is not winning. But based on the perception of Kenyans, if he runs based on our idea of who and what a president should be, like uko na pesa ngapi. Omtata was told that he does not have the money to run for office. We'll talk about how lucrative Kenyan politics is. I think I submit that if our software of operation is the same that we operate with, if President Ruto runs for office in 2027, no matter how brilliant points we have, no matter how much we know the Constitution, he still wins.
Because, look, I don't know if this is also majority of what we were talking about, but this is just a by the way. Politics is about numbers, not feelings and emotions. I think this is where most of us are getting it all wrong. Today I can dislike you the much I want. He can dislike you too the much he wants. But we are only two people and we never know. Maybe you already have 5 people behind you who are saying you're good. Numbers will end up beating our feelings. You understand? President William Ruto, barring a surprise twists and changes in our political architecture in the next 18 months, he may just still win in 2027. Numbers don't lie. I'm telling you the truth. Because look at it from this end. I'm from Nyanza, and I want to challenge you to go down there and do your own research. Raila Odinga still is the man down there. He's still the man to say. I don't know. He has had the chunk of the north and chunk of the coast. I don't know what the political understanding around there has been, but I can still see that it has not changed that much. That then means that a larger percentage of the coast would still listen to Raila Odinga.
Fanya Mambo, however brilliant, I would say Kenya has very brilliant people, but we cannot live in denial about our foolish population. They are our foolish people and we know, right? It's possible that we may have discussions za ukweli kabisa, but at the end of the day, there's a concept that people talk about which somehow you'll be inclined to believe that, oh, Kenyans watapiga kelele, and I'll tell you why. Kenyans watapiga kelele, but at the end of the day, when the time comes to make a decision, right, they'll retreat back into their tribal cocoons. It's very easy to believe that we have shunned tribalism, right? But resetting takes time. Remember, President Uhuru was very unpopular in his first term. Na alikuwa, it was scandal after scandal. That way we had the NYS and you weren't even sure that it's gonna win. Sidio? That's how he won. Could this be why President Ruto is also counting on 2027 as a sure bet? And are we deluding ourselves about we Kenyans sliding away from the idea, the software of tribalism?
I'll start from something you said. The police have said that sometimes Kenyans have begged them to take bribes.
Yes.
It is true. I'll tell you why. Because a simple traffic offense like overlapping may attract a fine of 20,000. And with 1,000 shillings as a bribe, you can get away. Kenya is too ambitious in terms of when they write laws on collection of taxes and penalties for traffic offenses. I wish overlapping had a fine of 2,000 shillings. Many people would tell the policemen, nifikishe police station, nilipe 2,000, nipatiwe risiti. And some of these other crimes and so on and so forth. Sometimes we are too ambitious in the things we do, and Kenyans have to look for a way to survive. In some countries, like if you go to Tanzania, the fine for overspeeding is 30,000 T shillings, which is 1,500 Kenya shillings. And many Tanzanians will be like, naomba msamaha. And then they pay the 1,500. But if you've driven through Tanzania, over a distance of, say, like from the equivalent of Nairobi to Nakuru, you will have found 7 speed guns. So you'll probably pay 1,500 times 7 speed guns. And you will not want that. And all that money goes to government.
And you reach
here they put an obnoxious fine of 30,000, 40,000. Kenyans are like, that money is too much. I'm not saying that if you make it cheap, it will be easy. Sometimes when you go through 5 roadblocks and you'll end up paying 7,500. You will not want another one. And that money all goes to government. So we need to rethink that. But coming back to what he said, politics is about numbers. The voter register as at last elections. If this Kenya Kwanza had not killed some 80 people, would have been standing at 22 million. Now it has reduced because they killed some people. And others have died of natural causes anyway. Out of this 22 million, 14 are between the ages of 18 and 40. And out of this, the bulk of them are young, educated people who are saying no.
Who
the
just register
curtain,
to vote,
no,
but don't go voting.
No, the curtain must fall on this generation. One thing I must clap for President Ruto for is making people who ordinarily would never have voted to vote. For the first time, middle class is going to vote. Because his tax regime has touched them. You know, they used to be, oh, my car, it can't go to a polling station. Oh, my kids don't go to a polling station school. Now, they can't wait for the election. Because this administration has made life so difficult for the middle class. It has made life so difficult for campus students and people who've just finished campus. They know what university funding model is. And I can tell you for free, they can't wait to remove this administration. When I tell you that the bulk of the people are between 18 and 40, one of the reasons why Raila Amolo Odinga even has trepidation in his belly is because he knows this is a population of people you cannot control. And this is a population of people that is different from the people he used to tell, Wajaluo tutaenda hivi. Or the kind of people that Uhuru and Rigiji would have come and said, Wakikuyu tutaenda hivi. And they started by proving when the Kikuyus told Uhuru Kenyatta, oh, utaenda peke yako, sisi tutavote Ruto. So I'm telling you for free, if politics is about numbers, these 14 million people, nyinyi who have been thinking, I have seen people who were trying, like there's a time Murkomen worked so hard. He was trying to keep saying it's a Kikuyu thing. He tried to tribalize the whole thing. And Kenyans have stood and said, no, abductions is not a Kikuyu thing. Fighting this government is not a Kikuyu thing. Life is hard for all of us. So we have refused to have that conversation of tribe. They tried bringing it, we refuse. And once we refuse, what will happen is the way walikuwa nasema ati ukileta Oparanya kwa serikali umeleta Waluya, shock on you, ataingia peke yake. Right now he's brought Mutahi Kagwe. How many people from Nyeri are going to follow Mutahi Kagwe? I'm telling you, none. How many people from Kiambu will follow Kabogo into government? None. You go to Kondele and Kisumu, you saw when the president was there, you could see a bunch of people cheering. You can tell these ones have been mobilized. And you could see others behind there. Look at those clips, wondering why are people cheering for Ruto. And just the other day, there was a lot of burials in Kisumu of young people who had died during Maandamano. Are they forgetting it's the same administration that was killing their young people? And by the way, he leaves Mount Kenya, which gave him 47% of the total votes he got, and goes to Luo Nyanza. You know, in Luo Nyanza, when their own son is vying, a man they love to the bone, 68% of them voted, 32% did not. And this is Baba, and he's been supported by Uhuru. Do you know 500,000 Luos did not vote? Their son is on the ballot.
And the margin for the election was 200,000.
Their son is on the ballot, supported by the sitting president. 32% of them did not wake up to vote. Wait. Now, what will
that is a
motivate
narrative
them?
that must be challenged. Today we must rest this to bed.
No, wait. What will motivate them to vote on a date if now we want to say the tribal thing is not going to die? What would motivate them to vote on a date when a Kalenjin is vying for president and Raila is not vying? What would motivate? Go and look at the statistics for the Luya vote. 2.6 million registered, 1.4 million voted. The others did not find it necessary to wake up to go and vote. Now, and that is they had a man they love, because the Luya community has proven to us that they vote for Baba. Even when Mudavadi is on the ballot, they give more votes to Baba. When the man they loved the most was on the ballot, out of 2.6 million registered, 1.4 million voted. Now they have William Ruto, a man they have never woken up cheerfully to vote for. What will so you leave 47% that is sure of it. You go into a Western belt that even when their own son, the one they love the most, is on the ballot, they don't find it necessary to vote. What are you doing? Combine. Statistics are very stubborn. Combine the entire Homa Bay. Give me these counties. Kisumu, Siaya, Migori. Therefore, it's about 1.2.
Kisii plus Nyamira.
What you say Kisii kwanza, those are 4.
You need
Kisumu.
Wait,
Kisumu,
we shall come
Homa
to Kisii. Yeah.
Kisumu, Homa Bay,
Siaya.
Migori, Siaya County.
Do their total, therefore.
And
Inakujanga 1.3 million.
Oh.
Now, how much is the vote in Kiambu? 2 million. So when the 4 of them vote, Kiambu comes and covers them and leaves surplus. So now you've left a region like Kiambu alone that could give you one constituency. Juja inakuwaga na 400,000 votes. You know the story of Juja and Roiro. So now you've left a region, Kiambu alone, that has 2 million votes. You've gone into 4 counties that will give you 1.2 million votes. Na unasema we ni genius wa hesabu. Kwani hesabu unafanya ukiwa upside down ama ni bottom up? Hizi ziko chache ndio unasema ndio mingi. So it's not gonna work.
I have a submission on the idea. Yeah, I have a submission on that, like in terms of politics, vile umefanya hesabu, but Dorn, ulikuwa unasema unataka kuchallenge this.
No, I'm not even going to challenge it though. I'm just going to make, he's given me a very good assertion. Statistics never lie, and numbers are very stubborn. However, you also need to understand that whenever there are rumors, the elements of truth in it. Rumors just never show up from somewhere. And there has always been rumors that most of these numbers in quotes in Central, are terribly interfered with. I'll not, like I said, I'll not comment on rumors, but I'll go back to the numbers. I want to challenge Fanya Mambo, my friend here, that if, and I'm challenging, we will be here. After the 2027 elections, we will be sitting here, the 3 of us, to have a different conversation.
I'll be in parliament, but let's continue.
We will call you. Trust me. We are going to take you to parliament. No, I'm going to campaign for you.
Thank you.
I'm going to vote you. And when that is done, we are going to ask you for this, after serving your people, to come and help us have another conversation here. One, you say that that when William leaves Central and goes to Nyanza, where majority of people did not vote, even when Raila was on the ballot.
Only 32% did not vote.
Yeah, where
68%
the larger, okay, according to you, there's a large, 500,000, that's what you said?
Yes.
500,000 did not vote. And I don't know, I think maybe you could have been born after 2003. I was there in 2002. And 2002, Raila wasn't on any ballot.
My friend.
And whoever was on that ballot did not come from Nyanza. That is if my memory serves me correct. But I can tell you his name. His name was Moi Kibaki. Okay? He was not from Nyanza. But I want to challenge you that Raila woke up one morning and said Kibaki tosha. And that was it. I'm not saying that is what is going to happen with William Ruto. But I'm telling you that do not underestimate Luo Nyanza. I'm telling you the truth today. And I can also I love the fact that you say that lawyers always the majority loves Raila, regardless of who or their sons are on the ballot. I can also tell you point blank, I want you to talk to a Kisi after this, or if you have a phone, call one of them. They'll also tell you that more often than not, they follow Raila. Okay? So that is why I insisted that when you are counting those few counties in Nyanza, you should add 2, that is Kisii and Nyamira, and do not forget their western. All in all, all I'm trying to say in a nutshell is that those numbers will play a huge part. And barring Raila going to AUC and closing doors on the local politics, okay? Mm-hmm. Those numbers will play a very huge role. And this contest is very interesting. And I want to challenge our friends in Central. Over the past 6 or so months, they have been trying to make it appear that their battle is a national battle. We are refusing to look at it from that end. We are taking, this time we have allowed 2 warring dogs to fight. We are the wolf. We are just watching them.
There's an angle we are all missing when it comes to the game of numbers.
Yeah.
And this is the game of resources, number one,
yeah.
in my opinion. You see, I believe the reason why politicians will fight so hard to stay in power is to protect what they already have, right? I believe the 2022 election was a do or die for President Ruto, because if he had lost, the regime that comes, if he did not have like the power to be on the table with negotiating numbers in parliament, they would have come after him big time with the accusations of corruption and everything, right?
Yeah.
He won. He's president now. He's been accused of so many things. And in 5 years, if he leaves that office, right, he knows, like we as human beings know how survival works. We know that if he leaves that office in 5 years, like there's a lot that people would like to go after him for, right? Sindio?
Yeah.
Knowing him and the team that he works with, let's say, for example, the interests he needs to protect beyond 2027, right? Yeah. Don't you think he knows that the ballot, the election register has X number of people that can remove him from power?
No, I want to challenge the fact, I want to think that, and I want to remove this notion from the mindset of most of us that there will be rigging. There will be no rigging. Why do I think there will be no rigging? Right now, from Gen Zs to millennials, the internet has made it as a way safer. I'm not saying that that's based on what you're saying. I'm just trying to get that notion out of our head that there could be numbers challenge. And that also brings me to have a problem with our elected leaders who are so reckless in their discussions. Nimeona juzi wengine wako on top of cars abusing the people who voted them. But I want to make it, I want to make my statement easy. The 2027 general elections, it's going to be a very interesting game and very peaceful.
Sawa. Ulikuwa unataka kukotea Dorn kwa kibali.
You see?
Yes.
Mr. Dorn, let me tell you, I was very much alive in 2002.
Yes.
And I was, by God's grace, it was actually the year I think I turned 18. So it was my first time to vote. I'm now 40.
Oh, you voted in that election?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
There's one thing I want to tell you. I don't know why many people think I'm 33. There's one thing I want to tell you. Moi, I don't like him, but he's a professor of politics. He had done his maths well. If you remember that election, Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta got 1.7 million votes. Mm-hmm. There was a faction called LDP.
Correct.
Led by Raila Amolo Odinga. Mm-hmm. And then there was a faction called NAK, led by Mwai Kibaki. NAK. Kabla ikuwe sasa NAC, National Alliance Rainbow Coalition. Now this is what happened. When they combined, they became 3.3 million votes. Mm-hmm. If you are wise, divide 3.3 by 2.
1.65.
1.65.
Yeah.
So Uhuru would have beat them squarely by 500,000 votes.
Okay.
And Moi had done his maths and finished. He knew that Uhuru will get 1.7 million votes. There was no 50 plus 1. And that's why the framers of the 2010 constitution came with 50% plus 1. Moi used to lead us with a minority of 31%. Munagawana, he gets 28%. Bora, he got the majority votes, he's president. Munagawana, he gets 31%. That's how Moi led us all through.
Moi, mathematics.
Yes,
yeah, that was the
Moi
maths.
92 would get 1.4 million votes. Munasikia ameshinda Matiba mwenye akona 1.2. Alafu amefuatwa na mwingine akona 800. You combine what the opposition has, there are more Kenyans who've rejected him than those who have accepted him.
Yeah. But he still leads.
So now... this is what had happened. Raila looked at things. And from the maths, NAK would probably have had slightly more votes, but they would have been number 2. And LDP would have been number 3 because of tribal numbers. So it was either you people support Kibaki Tosha or Uhuru becomes president. So for Raila, and I tell Kenyans, muomba chumvi huombea chunguche. When I come to borrow salt from your house, I don't borrow salt so that I put in his pot. It's because I've tasted my food and the salt is less. Muomba chumvi huombea chunguche. When Raila Amolo Odinga was saying Kibaki Tosha, he was not saying Kibaki Tosha because he loves Kibaki. He was saying Kibaki Tosha because Uhuru was going to become president.
And
it was better for him.
What makes
and
you
the numbers
think that
are not lying.
Why do you think... Do you think Raila's vote plus Uhuru would have...
This is what I'm telling you.
Would have taken Uhuru to the
If
the
Raila had gone for Uhuru Tosha,
yeah,
Uhuru would have become president.
Okay,
What I'm trying
but why
to say,
did he choose Kibaki?
It was a safer pair of hands. And I'll tell you why.
Tell me.
Because Kibaki had experience. Remember, Uhuru had just come from being a nominated MP. He was very young. He was naive. He didn't know how to run a country. Kibaki had been DP. Kibaki had been Minister for Health. Kibaki had been there since independence. Kenya was safer under Kibaki than it would have been under Uhuru. I mean, every other sensible person would have gone for Kibaki. Then also, there was an issue of self-preservation. Under that constitution, Raila Amolo Odinga felt that it is easier to unseat Kibaki because he's old. Or he would be there. Let me tell you. If you're holding a piece of meat, if you're holding a piece of meat and you're walking on the road, and you see a young dog and an old dog, you'd rather that the old dog snatches the meat from you than a younger dog, because even the old dog will have challenges running and so on and so forth, and it may not run even too far. So he had done his maths, na nimekwambia muomba chumvi huombea chunguche. So for the 2002, for those who've never understood, that's how it happened. Uhuru was going to become president. So it was better off to settle for Kibaki, because then Raila has a chance to fight with Kibaki in the following year, 2007. As opposed to fighting with Uhuru, a younger guy, mwenye kaneza fanya campaign 20 in a day, and you cannot match up with that because he was very young. So I think that rests that case. But coming back to what I was telling you, 2027, we have to dissolve this issue of tribal numbers. And it is sad that in my generation, there are people who are still perpetuating the idea that Luyas will vote like this, Kisses will vote like this, and Kambas will vote like this. We have to say no. I have told you, they have woken up to defend a Tanzanian lady without even knowing she's Tanzanian. They've seen a Kenyan whose rights are being affected. And they've come out. There's a City Hopper driver who did, wewe ni Mkikuyu, kama wewe si Mjaluo sitakusaidia. No, it is someone's rights are being affected. Reverse the bus block. When Gen Zs went on the streets, they were being told about tribe by the older guys. And then they were answering, we are tribeless. In fact, they had never come with the idea of tribeless. They were answering that they are tribeless because they are idiots above them who are telling them that you guys have tribes. And they are telling those idiots, shut up. Where we live and where we stay, that thing doesn't work.
Okay.
So, and we have to keep telling them and reminding them in no way that we are going to mince our words, that anybody who is telling us tribe is an idiot and is older. And we have to cancel that idiocy. It has to come to an end at some point like they did in Tanzania. Tanzania has 102 tribes. We are saying we can't do it. Why? Tanzania is poorer than us. They have less education than ourselves. They have less democracy, less penetration of internet. But they know they are Tanzanians. And by the way, when Tanzanians are in their locality, they speak their 1 or 2 languages. But when a Tanzanian moves to another town, they speak in Kiswahili. And go and check. The Chaga, being the largest community in Tanzania, has never held the presidency. In fact, they are always entrusting the presidency with some of the smallest tribes out of the 1 or 2 in Tanzania. We can create a unitary state that is tribeless, and we will. And it's not emotional and it's not idealistic, it is true. Because we are already doing it. In this studio, when we sit here, when I walked in here, I have seen so many production people that I never cared to ask where they come from. And the person who even served us with this soda and water, God bless them, I didn't ask them, Miss Kunywangi ya Wakisi. No, this is a Kenyan, they are giving us soda, let's go for it. So let us kill that, and we have to do it deliberately. And we have to tell anybody who is saying, sisi kama Waluya, shut up. Anza kuongea wewe kama Mkenya. And we always tell them, shame on you. Every time they try to bring tribe, shame on you. Until they get to a point, they say, hey, Gen Z wanatutukananga tukimention tribe. Then we've killed it.
But you see, very beautiful submission, brilliant. But then we have the issue of the people, like, let's say, I see a situation, and it's interesting, Kenyans versus politicians, okay? Kenyans versus the political class. It is people without resources versus people who control the resources, right? Mm-hmm. Do you think these people have 3 years to strategize on how to maintain the so-called status quo? A day in politics is like an year, right?
One thing we are forgetting. I don't know if we are forgetting or we are just being tactically ignorant about it, or simply deciding not to want it. There is 3 things in life. There's what I want to happen, okay? Then there is what is happening. Sometimes I'm lucky enough that what is happening is also what I want to happen. But more often than not, what is happening and what I want are 2 different things. Okay? We all want a tribeless nation. And at some point, we are going to achieve it. I'm just saying it's not today or tomorrow. That's one truth.
At least it's before 2027.
No. We are lying to each other. There's still a generation that has always voted in a certain pattern. Where are you taking them to? That generation. That is the generation you go down, deep down in Homa Bay or deep down in Migori, or you go deep down at the coast. Those regions that perceive themselves as Raila's guy. They'll tell you, they will not take this angle that my friend here is saying that, you see, Raila was trying to calculate. They know that Raila wholeheartedly supported Kibaki. He said, Kibaki, torture. Okay? This other angle is an elitist angle. Elites look at it from that. They calculate it using numbers. The people down there, these other generations that were there in 2002, who still see Raila as who he is, that group is still going to sit and wait for Raila to say where they want to vote.
Like I'm telling you the truth. Political class, because I saw a video. I don't remember whether it was the president who was in a village somewhere talking about wale wa huko Nairobi wanapiga kelele kwa mtandao. So in the internet, like where apparently this conversation is happening, is a Nairobi thing. That's what you believe. Elites. Like that's what your submission supports.
There is the elites versus the rest of us. Yes.
What does that mean?
That means
the majority is the rest of us. What do you mean by the rest of us?
That means that I started by saying that they're generations. Okay? As much as one generation naturally dies and then the next one picks over. These other generations that voted in 2002, they are not yet out completely. Some of them are out, but they are not yet out completely. And as such, the generation that is supposed to succeed them have not succeeded them fully.
Yes.
You understand?
Okay.
So what I'm saying is, this other generation that I'm talking about, the 202 class of voters, most of them are not on YouTube. Most of them are not on or even if they are on social media, because now phones are almost everywhere.
Yes.
These people their opinions are not swayed much by what we put on social media. The opinion are still the one they hold, that they have always put the nation's interest ahead. And there is how they look at it. And even my friend here is telling you that they are trying to change the narrative. The other day here, Rigiji has been kicked back to the village. He's now the village cock. He's the one who wakes up and crows in the village, and everyone listens to him. Ask him here to tell you that Rigiji can, today as we speak, Rigiji is having a serious voice in Mount Kenya. And I'm telling you that however much the perception is that there is a group of young voters who are coming to vote, I don't disagree, because that number is large. But I'm also still telling you that Rigiji is still controlling a good chunk of votes in Mount Kenya, regardless of the generation of those votes. They could be votes for members of 202, members of 2013, or even the ones that have not registered. But Rigiji as we speak, a lot will change between today until the next election. But let's not lie to each other. Look, you see news, you see social media. Majority of central Kenya right now, of those who have a problem with the government, are looking at the alternatives, and that alternative group is led by Rigiji.
Let me correct him. Sorry, my friend, I come from the mountain. And there are things you need to know about the mountain. In the mountain, people do not follow leaders. Leaders follow the people. And that is why Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta came and tried to show the mountain where to go. And the mountain told him, you join us or you stay. After 2 years, the mountains realized they had made a mistake. You saw Embu. You see how they were receiving Uhuru. He had become their king again, because he appeared to be on the side of the Kikuyu as the mountain. And he was now looking like, and you could tell who the king is. Even that day, the Rigiji was there, but Uhuru was just what they wanted. The day Uhuru went to Ruto, look at the difference between the mountain and, for example, the Luo Nyanza, the Raila constituency. If Raila today wakes up and goes to Uhuru's government, his people go with him. If he goes to Ruto government, they go with him. Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta shook Ruto's hand, and that was it. They told him, you are on your own. Right now, Uhuru Kenyatta is not influencing the mountain. Rigiji appears to have the mountain. It is the other way around. Rigiji has come to where the mountain is. I can tell you for free, if you think Rigiji is king of the mountain, ambie Mount Kenya na warudisha kwa Ruto 2027, mchague Ruto. They will not go with him. Because in the mountain, leaders follow the people. If you want to be popular in Mount Kenya today, ask ground inasema aji. You go to where the people are. That's why people like Gathoni wa Mushomba knew she hated UDA. But she knew for her to be elected in Githongori, at that point in time, she needed UDA. She cowed herself down. She fought for a nomination. She was nominated on UDA and started fighting them immediately. What I'm trying to tell you is the mountain does not follow the leader. If Rigiji was a Luo leader, for example, he can very easily mobilize the whole community and take them back to Ruto, and they will go. And we have seen that with Raila. Raila has taken people to Moi, they've gone. He's removed them from Moi, they've followed him. He's taken them to Kibaki, they've gone. He's removed them from Kibaki in the referendum, they've followed him. He's taken them to Uhuru, he's taken them to Ruto. Wherever he takes his followers, they follow him. And they defend him. And you can see that he's wrong, but they defend him until it becomes right. And there's nothing as horrible as you telling a lie so many times and then ending up believing in your own lie. You find someone who strongly believes in a lie that they started, and you cannot remove them from it. So the mountain is not Rigiji who is controlling the mountain. Rigiji is being accepted because he's... In fact, let me surprise you. The person who was controlling the mountain for some time, and I think it was unknown to him, was Maina Jenga. Oh, if Maina Jenga had said anything, the mountain was going to follow. And then, I don't know what confused him. He started saying that he'll be helping those MPs who've been rejected in the region, plus the president to come within the region. He was told, Maina Jenga, uko umeenda, uko peke yako. Right now he has no saying in the mountain. They've started calling him Mungiki and so on. So all I'm trying to tell you, Rigiji has come to where the people are. And the day Rigiji will tell the people, I'm taking you back to Ruto. Even if today he was to be told, Kindiki resign, I'm reappointing Rigiji. Rigiji atambua, thank you, but my friend, you are on your own. They will look for another hero to come and fill that gap.
Do you also see this other perspective that you just said that that you gave a good example of Uhuru Kenyatta, for example, that the other day
in Mambo,
in 2022 the mountain refused to go Uhuru's way.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
But we also forgetting, or maybe just not forgetting, but simply trying to pepper on certain issues here. One has been Raila. Any Kikuyu that appears to side with Raila, or any prominent Kikuyu friendly politician that side with Raila becomes an enemy automatically. That is one truth.
Where is this coming from?
Statistics
like,
are always
are you trying to
the answer is
insinuate?
this.
The other day,
in 2 seconds.
I want to be categorical, and I don't want to be misquoted, and I want you to go and I want this to be challenged by a third party, just not him. Uhuru was good until the point Raila came to the table.
Ruto was good until Raila joined him.
Ruto was not good to the mountain. I'm telling you the truth.
Ndio nasema,
The
but your point,
the thing was, the mountain is always anti-Raila. And the problem that most of the mountain leaders have today is that their prayer, and I want to use this to answer the AU animosity. The mountain's leaders have always profited from one thing. Whoever can abuse Raila at the highest podium becomes elected. It has always been like that for the longest.
Just to deal with your theory,
and
are you saying
William Ruto was elected in 2022 not because they liked him, but it was because he was the only alternative other than, he was the only guy on the opposite side of the Raila team.
Let's just take you. Let's just take
right
you
now.
to
Raila
that
is a huge problem.
That same example you've given. Uhuru was hated because he joined hands with Raila.
Yes.
That's your submission.
Yeah.
Did Ruto start becoming bad? Did he start losing the clout in the mountain because he joins hands with Raila?
From day one that Rigiji and William Ruto was sworn in, if you can remember very well what Rigiji said at
the prayer
they are swearing in. It started from a problem with Raila. That he ameharibu serikali tano, he want to come in and haribu this. From day one, the problem was Raila. From day one, they forgot that they were elected. They just started the Raila war from the first minute. And it has even gotten to the worst angle now that Raila shook hands with William Ruto.
Someone said that Raila has... I'll not say that. Dakuliza tu swali, hujanijibu. Did Ruto start becoming bad to people when he joined hands with Raila? Did they start, like, if assuming Ruto became the enemy of the mountain, did this happen after Raila joined him?
I want to answer you that in 2023, several months after the election, ODM started fighting for Kenyans. We were all there. They organized several peaceful protests at that time. Who was opposing that protest? Mount Kenya. It was Mount Kenya that was opposing that protest, and they made it clear that Raila has been disruptive. So up until that time, there was no problem. Because according to them, the cost of living was not an issue. Police brutality was not an issue. And that is this same government. I'm not talking about something that happened 20 years ago. I'm telling you what happened with this government. Until Raila cooled down and stopped.
So are you saying that the Gen Z...
And when he stopped, that is where the problem now came.
I disagree with you, because when the Gen Z mandamanos happened, they happened in different places.
Yeah.
I think there was even a case where politicians started having heat in the ground, wakienda ground, right? Even in central Kenya. The mandamanos, there is a record. Like, I think it's the 25th June, people came out spontaneously in different parts of the country.
I was there. Yeah.
And it was not, Raila was not supporting the government then. Right?
I'd say he was just
after
quiet.
he was
yeah.
part of the protest, there's a time he went to Kware, and he was, I think he almost said, he said, Ruto must go, something like that.
Could be.
Right?
Yeah.
Sindio?
Yeah.
At that point, you cannot separate. You cannot now say that because this happened during Uhuru's time, it has happened because people hate Raila from the mouth.
I want to challenge him by a question. Are you supporting Raila for the AUC?
Yes. I'll tell you why. I have made it very clear on TV.
Do you think he'll win?
No, wait, let me come slowly. I have said it very, very many times on TV that when a Kenyan wears a Kenyan jersey and goes to the Olympics, to me, he's not a Kalenjin, he's not a Maasai, he's a Kenyan wearing the Kenyan jersey, and I support the Kenyan wearing the Kenyan jersey. I support Raila's bid for the AUC because he's the Kenyan wearing the Kenyan jersey. I would be stupid not to support him. And trust you me, if Raila left our Kenyan politics, a lot of realignments would happen, which we need, especially within the Nyanza belt. I want to see young Luo leaders coming up, and that would create a vacancy for them to come up, because he's been there for quite a long time. And we need to see some fresh leadership coming from that end. So I feel it's a high time that Baba got that seat. As to whether he will get it or not, these votes are being cast by a very special group of human beings, because the guys who are voting are presidents. It's very hard to tell how a president will vote, because these are people who are highly diplomatic, and many of them also lie quite a bit. So for someone to sit here and tell you confidently, I know Raila will win or Raila will lose, it's very hard. Because the constituency that is voting is not our kawaida Wajiko Nafula. It's a president of a republic. And presidents predicting them and knowing how they behave and what they say and how they will behave at the ballot is very hard. I wish it was the kawaida predictable person. You can tell these ones will vote like this. These are presidents. And they are going to vote. So for anybody to come and tell you, I am sure Baba will win or Baba is going to lose, is a very difficult thing to say right now, because the voters are special voters.
There is, I think, a few talking points. Have you been satisfied by the answer?
No, but we are on the same page on this. So I think we'll have a different conversation over tea later.
Sawa. There is so much I hope.
The only reservation I have with the AUC seat, I can give you a list of AUC presidents who've been there, and I don't need to mention them.
But he's
even
the
one
AUC
who came,
commission chair, right?
Yeah, chair. Sorry. Even the one who came from Mali. Boss, Mali is still a poor country after that. By the way, when Raila Amolo Odinga started his campaign, he didn't even start it in Africa. He started it in Europe. Go check. Why? Because the white people have to decide for Africa who is going to be their AUC chair. AUC has been meaningless and useless for Africa. And I can't point to one achievement of AUC for Africa. And I can't point to one thing and that is why AUC cannot stop the wars in Africa. It has not been able to do anything meaningful for Africa. Even being able to do connectivity, roads and infrastructure for Africa, it hasn't achieved. 1.5 billion people in the African continent going to beg to the United States economy that has got 300 million people. And all of them looking at AUC as Europe and America, which to me I consider poor compared to Africa. AUC has become that set of strings that the West uses to control how far Africa can go and where and when. And believe you me, if Raila wants to win this seat, he has to appear to the Europeans like a weak leader. If he comes with the gusto of the late Muammar Gaddafi, the West will not let him become AUC chair. And that's why the bulk of AUC chairmen have been very timid people. Because it is the business of the West to ensure that Africa remains in exploitable state. You cannot unite 50 countries that are the richest in the world, and then that they have gold, they have all the resources that feed. Like France. France is a leech that feeds on Africa, and we all know. And their colonies are always pegged to them, and they are robbing from and I can say that for free. But AUC has done nothing about it.
Okay.
So Raila becoming chairman of AUC is a good thing, but he needs to know that when he gets there, the West will make sure he does nothing.
I can't make a submission on AUC because I've not done independent research on
So,
the
yeah.
organization. I'll do that and probably I'll make a response, Nikiwa qualified to say. There are two things I believe that we really wanted to discuss. Number one, why are young people behaving the way they are? We have covered it separately on different points, and I think it comes out in the point where people now know what they want and they are very deliberate about what they want, and they are well read, which is a good thing. The government is making it about parenting, which I don't know what's there. And then I hope we have touched on the Rigiji factor. And before we close this show, Mimi, I'm not a host of this show. As in we are just having a conversation and I'm just appearing as an introduction. You're going to see more of Fanya Mambo. You're going to see more of Dorn. You'll see all your political commentators, brilliant commentators on this show. I think it's important that we talk on governance. And Fanya Mambo, I have to say that I love your passion on governance issues. Don, you're not afraid to say what you say, and I think that's also a good thing. Yeah. And I have so much hope for us Kenyans, for us as a country, and for this show too. And I hope we can be able to have candid conversations without judgment. In show, we are open-minded people. This is an open-minded platform, so haina feelings.
Allow me to say something as we close, just in 30 seconds. I think this administration needs to appreciate one thing, and that will help them. Okay. If they can listen to me, it will help them. You are dealing with young people who are hurting. These people have been deeply, 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 deeply wounded. You were in class with a young person, and since June you've not seen them. You don't know where their body is. You don't know whether they are alive or dead. And this was a lifetime companion. And then when you tell the administration that you are angry, they threaten you and tell you they are going to deal with you. And you get angry and you draw them in a coffin. And what they are trying to say is that they're not trying to say that the person in a coffin is dead. They are trying to say that the consciousness and the humanity of the person in the coffin is dead. This person has got no human consciousness. Because 80 of us are missing. And they are saying they are going to beat us up because of saying 80 of us are missing. The leader who will win this war against young people is the man who will come and say, Gen Zs, millennials, we are sorry. We made a mistake, we are sorry. Some of your people died, we are sorry. We know you are hurting, we are sorry. If there's a way we can make amends, we are sorry. That is the only way this administration will win that war.
So there is hope that they can win.
They can only win that war by stepping down and telling young people, we know you are hurt. We know you buried Rex Masai. May he rest in peace. We know you're in a difficult place. And for all the things that happened, we are sorry. Finally, about the children, I agree parents need to tell their children not to do the wrong things. Starting with those parents whose children own matatus. Tell your children not to drive matatus obnoxiously. The new matatus that are being driven. And those parents whose children have lied to Kenyans, to tell their children to stop lying to Kenyans. If we do those two things, then the others will follow suit. And they'll tell their children also to also do the right thing. And even the much, much older parents who are still looking at their children, who are calling other Kenyans by the names of private parts of women, to tell their children that you, even if you are grown up, you're still a grown-up child, don't call Kenyans by the names of private parts of women, especially their mothers, and expect Kenyans to be happy. So yes, we can talk to our children about good manners, but it starts there. Thank you.
Okay. Sawa. Before Don gives his submissions, remember I'm just appearing as a guest. Actually, I'm actually a guest on this show.
Yeah.
Nimefanya kazi ya Don. Na Fanya Mambo, mimi tutakutana na nyinyi on zile episodes zetu za Vibes on Monday. For now, this show comes to you every Friday. And at this juncture, politics. Actually, this conversation is purely politics. The Kitchen Cabinet is a good name for the show.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to appreciate Kenyans, especially subscribers of this show. We are going to hit it way hard. Every Kenyan, if you think that your opinion matters, and it does, reach out to us, reach out to any one of us, including the producers, we want to bring you on. We want to hear your opinion. We want to talk to you. We want to hear how do you want us to do it. That having been said, I have to point out 4 things. Each of them I'm going to point out for 45 seconds. That is approximately the next 2 minutes. Number 1, I want to call out our leaders who are reckless. I mean, when however much you are excited with the power that you have at the moment, you can't be an elected MP who I just found actually out that is studied law, and you're behaving like some class 2 kid who has been bought for some sweets. You must respect Kenyans, and I'm calling out Honorable Farah Malim. Particularly, I'm categorical on him because I saw his clips and I was very mad at them. He must show respect because this is the second time he's so reckless. I even doubt if he doesn't drink or use those other serious stuffs. The second thing I want to point out is that I want to sympathize with the Kenyans whose families have been interfered with and affected by the current regime. We are calling on to the regime, please respect Kenyans. Whoever has committed a crime, use the correct legal procedures of bringing them to justice. Number 3, this is now to my fellow young people. 1, I want to appreciate and encourage the people that are doing the activism work, whether it is online, whether it is in person. We did that. You remember we were in Okoa, Kenya. We moved there to God. So it's been a journey that has been ongoing. However, I also want to challenge, and this has been an opinion I've shared with several people, that they are better, respectful, with decorum ways of effecting reforms. I want you to disagree. I want you to hold the government accountable, but with decorum and respect, so that in future, the next generation, this generation, the generation of the Gen Zs, we are going to be leaders. You are going to be the next PSS in 10 years or less. Okay? We want that when you become a leader and people around you are not, are not in tandem with how you carry out your work, that they can disagree to agree. They can disagree in respectful manner with decorum.
Where you ask the abductors to also abduct people with decorum and with respect.
That is why I started by saying that our leaders and our security forces have to start by following due process. Abduction is not a due process. Okay? Somebody has to be arrested. If they are wrong, they have to be arrested. So, in short, I'm saying that abductions must stop. And for people who are calling out abductions, I appreciate you. I'm just saying you are going to do the call out, you are going to do the activism, you are going to do the disagreement in a civil, respectful, and with decorum manner. So that in future, if you find yourself in those offices, we also disagree with you with respect.
And I think this quote, though not verbatim, can be attributed to Baba when he said that this government, and I'm not advocating for violence in any way, I'm just saying it as I saw it, that this government only understands the language of the streets. I think Baba has said something like that.
That's true.
Yeah.
And still, remember that going to the street is inscribed in our constitution. You're allowed to picket. You're allowed to peacefully demonstrate. I'm just saying that we are going to do this with respect. Okay. Not just with the government. If we all decide to go to the street and just demonstrate respectfully and come back home, we have sent our message. If we do it the other way, we are going to hurt other people who are actually not, who has not wronged us in any way. If today we go to the streets and start, for example, interfering with shops, those shops are not owned by William Ruto.
Do you know, remember,
yeah,
there's 2 versions here.
Yeah.
The protests in June, I was on the streets the Tuesday before the Thursday, right?
Okay.
If people caught someone breaking into another person's shop,
and I really loved that,
they arrested them and handed them over to the police.
That is what we are going to do going forward.
After that, the political class decided to counter that by infiltrating the protest with goons.
Yeah.
Right?
So what we are going to do about that is this. As people who want to demonstrate, we are going to do it with civility and decorum. But we are also going to be very open-minded. We are going to check out, to watch out, to call out anybody who is going to do it the wrong way. That's what we are saying.
But on that one, just 30 seconds, allow me to say something. I have always told Kenyans, and this is extremely important, the Kenya Kwanza administration is prepared for your bodies on the streets. They have clothes that are designed to protect the policemen. They have a baton to beat you up. They have tear gas for your nose. They have the cannon water for you. They have everything.
Nilisikia hiyo maji inaitwa gender reveal.
The only thing, yes, the only thing that the Kenya Kwanza administration is not prepared for is your brains. So do not throw your bodies at the Kenya Kwanza administration. I've always told Kenyans, this is the time. I have told you, even monkeys, even bears, even the most stupid animals, they know when to hibernate. They don't go fighting with winter. When the sun is too hot and it is in the desert, you don't go saying, I'm a champion, I'll stay in the sun. And it's no, there has to be a time to hibernate. And this is the time. Okay. I tell Kenyans, you can't fight with the agents. So what you do, throw your brains at this administration. They're not ready for your brains. And one of the things is I have seen there's a head of state from some place who was supposed to come. And Kenyans have done more than 3,000 emails telling that head of state not to come.
He was coming or our president was going there?
He was supposed to come.
He was supposed to come.
He knows the story.
Yeah.
And now they are starting to write where they know the head of state wants to go. And at a point is coming when those countries will be receiving 1 million emails and their servers will be blocking. That's a more serious demonstration than being on the streets. There are very many ways. I have told Kenyans. I have told Kenyans that there are very many ways of demonstrating. Throw your brains at Kenya Kwanza. They are not ready for your brains. They have not prepared themselves to deal with your brains. And when you say of unintended consequences, Nani was being cheered and celebrated. The president from Burkina Faso, remind me, Traore.
Yeah.
Why?
Captain Ibrahim Traore.
Because he's solving the problems of Burkina Faso from inside Burkina Faso. And all the solutions to the problems of Burkina Faso lie inside of the borders of Burkina Faso. Any person who tells you that they are leaving your borders to go and resolve your problems outside of your borders is lying to you. How many just Google how many trips that the Chinese president make.
Interesting.
Anaenda kutafuta nini huko nje yenye hawezi tengenezea China? The minute you look inside, it's like a guy who stays in a marriage and keeps telling his wife, naenda kwa marriage counselor, naenda kwa yule mzee. Both sit with your wife. The solutions to the problems in your house are right within your house.
Okay.
Thank you.
Interesting submissions. This show is on our platform, but I'm not the host. You know our show, Money Vibes, tunakutana Monday. The Kitchen Cabinet comes to you every Friday. You'll see a lot of Dorn, you'll see a lot of Fanya Mambo. Please, for the topics that you'd like us to discuss, for the things, conversations you'd like to have on this platform, give suggestions. Ukitaka kuleta kwa show, please reach out to us. Our communication channels are open. Please feel free to participate in this conversation. These are conversations about us. See your feelings, opinions, and your opinion will be respected, and this is all about good governance. We all want a good country, we all want a successful country. Tuko na watu wengi sana tunaweza penda wakuje kwa show, na kuna watu wengi sana mnaweza penda wakuje kwa show. Please suggest. The Kitchen Cabinet, I'm not a host, I'm just appearing because this is our pilot episode. Asanteni sana for being guests on our first episode. Fanya Mambo, you are running for MP in Dagoretti. Yes. This conversation ilikuwa inafaa ikue for this episode. Let's hope we can catch it on the next one. I believe and I submit on this one that I don't think an MP should earn more than a policeman. And you said you don't mind. Yes. And I believe that our situation right now, we suffer a lot because of how lucrative politics is. The amount of money it takes to run for an MP seat, sometimes it's more than the salary you can earn in 5 years. So you understand it's an investment. How can we reverse from that? Let's hope we can catch that on our next episode. Tutaipanga, tutawambia. The place to be is on this same platform next week, Friday.